see that from the beginning. If you followed Drake and not even really followed him, but just looked at some of the things he did, even some of the things he said, that's the only way that you know a person is just from those two things. You only know a person from the things that they do and the things that they say, their words and their actions. Not what anybody else says, not anybody else's opinion, nothing like that. From what they do and what they say. And based on what Drake does and what he says and did and said, if you are just an authentic person, you can see that the boy was fake. He was fake. His problem and the entire reason why his hip hop career was destined to crumble is because Drake has no foundation in hip hop. That's his problem. Once again, Drake has no foundation in hip hop. Now, I want to make the distinction. Does he have a foundation as a person, as a human being? Absolutely. It's my opinion that every single person on this earth has a foundation, whether you believe it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you're in touch with it or not. Every single person has a foundation as a human being, as the person they are. That foundation is typically developed, when you're young. It's typically developed in childhood. That foundation is typically developed by your parents or those elders who raised you, older family members, older siblings. It might even be some older, friends, but typically it's those people who raised you, who taught you those things from day one that you're going to carry with you in life for the rest of your life, who taught you those things that you will do and you won't do, that you will accept and you won't accept, what's good and what's bad, who taught you how to make the proper decisions in life. That's where your foundation is developed. So your foundation is developed very, very young. And if all of you look back, you'll see that you had a foundation developed somewhere. So your foundation is developed and it's seeded when you're young from those who are, older and those who you look up to in life, those who lead you and raise you. But then, as you start to move through life and you grow up and you're going through, childhood and adolescence and you're coming into new experiences on your own and you're now having to fall back on those things that you were taught in order to direct you, you're now solidifying that foundation. Because this is the first time when you're really having to call on that foundation to direct you, is when you start experiencing life independently. And this could still be when you're living with your parents. This could be when you're 11, 12, 13, and you might be doing something or, you're out somewhere or whatever the case is. We know we all, had situations where our parents didn't necessarily know exactly what was going on, although our parents were still the leaders of our lives. And you had to make a decision, come to a conclusion, decide to go right or left. And that was all based off of the foundation that you had already developed. So when you reach a point in life where you're starting to make those independent choices, you're solidifying that foundation that you developed. And that was built for you, really, as a child. You solidify that foundation as you grow. And then as you go through life, you build on that foundation. Now that's just life in general. Everyone, I believe, has somewhat of that kind of experience in life. And it might not even be positive, because everybody didn't have a positive childhood where they had people around them who cared about them and taught them things, everything that they needed to know or whatever the case is. But in some way, shape, or form, even from that negative that you experienced, you took something to say, this is what I'm going to stand on moving forward. Whether to say, I'm never going to do those things, I'll do whatever I can to avoid those things, I won't accept those things. Even if you came to the conclusion that I will reject this negative thing for the rest of my life, that is part of your foundation. Okay? It's these basic rules that guide your life, that give you perspective, that give you principles and parameters that you don't step outside of, right? Everybody has that foundation in life. Now, Drake and hip hop. Drake has no foundation in hip hop. That is his major problem. That was his problem from day one. That is his problem today, which has led to his current demise, which we will see continue precipitously. He is not coming back. There's no recovering for him, okay? He will never again reach the same superstar status. He'll have fans. He'll do shows. Ja Rule still has fans. Ja Rule still does clubs. And I was a big fan of Ja Rule. But Drake is on that trajectory. He's on that trajectory of Ja Rule. But it'll be worse for Drake because he has a much bigger fall, because he was at a much higher height. And he has a much bigger fall, and it's happening faster. So Drake's career will now be equivalent to that of Ja Rule. Shout out to Ja Rule. Drake has no foundation in hip hop. What do I mean? Follow me. We know you have a foundation in life, but anything else that you build on or that you build in your life, you have to develop a foundation with that as well. So that could be your career. If you decide that this is the direction you want to move in with your career, you start somewhere. Normally at the beginning, you start learning the basics until you get that down pat, and then you move on to something else. Guess what you're doing? You're building your foundation in that career. If your foundation is a sport, your first couple times in practice, your first couple years in practice, you might just be working on the basics. Ask any great player, they'll tell you they spent years, maybe hours and hours, working on something small. Working on something small. You see them do 101 what looks like great things at the game, but you don't know they worked on 1,000 smaller things in order to do those 101 great big things, because they have to put all the small things together. When they were working on those small things in their sport, guess what they were doing? They were building their foundation. A teacher, you have to go to school to start learning the basics. A police officer has to go to training camp. We can go on and on and on and on and on. Anything that you build in your life, you must have a foundation for it. And if you don't have a foundation for it, or if you have a weak foundation, and then you just try to build on that, just wait and see. Just give it time. Like, it's not even a question. Just give it time. That sucker will crumble. Take a look at the biggest skyscraper you see. Take a look at the most opulent mansion that you see. It looks really nice, really appealing from a distance. A lot of eye-catching things. A lot of things about that skyscraper or that mansion that points to its greatness, to its wealth, to its stature, to its position above those other buildings around it. But I don't care how tall that skyscraper is. I don't care how luxurious and glamorous that mansion is. If they did not have a strong foundation built first, not even within it, built first, if they did not have a strong foundation built first, it's just a matter of time. The house is falling down. The skyscraper is falling down. The mansion is falling down. They might as well had built a house of cards or a house of sticks and stones, like one of the Three Little Piggies. It must fall down. Please remember that. Anything that you build without a foundation will crumble. Not maybe or hopefully it'll hold, and if I just do it this way, no. Physics, it's coming down. Drake, in hip-hop, was that skyscraper. Drake, in hip-hop, Drake's hip-hop career is represented by that mansion, by that skyscraper. Take your pick. Drake became, in hip-hop, this massive entity. This massive entity that you could see from a distance that towered over everything and everyone else. That's what Drake became in hip hop. He was the biggest. He was selling the most. He was the most streamed, right? He had the biggest contract, right? He's the stimulus guy, right? He got the stimulus package. Everybody wants to get on the Drake record. All the new artists want to be on the Drake record. Because Drake was the guy. He's the mansion. He's the opulent mansion that you see from 20 blocks away, and it's lit up on top of the hill, and you don't even know if you can get up there. So if you even get the invite to the mansion, you happy, you stoked. And that's how it was with a lot of young artists. And even just a lot of regular artists. They just wanted to say that, man, I stood next to the skyscraper that everybody wants to stand next to. I'm that skyscraper in Dubai that everybody wants to take a picture in. Or I'm that mansion, at the most exclusive point of the neighborhood at the highest hill. I just want to say I got an invite to the mansion. I just want to say I was in the party. No Diddy. So Drake was that skyscraper or that mansion. People just wanted to be next to him. And a lot of people were fooled, That's why they say everything that glitters ain't gold, baby. Everything that glitters ain't gold. Everybody wanted to go stand next to that skyscraper, go stand next to that mansion. But you know what, though? There was some people out there. There was some real ones out there. There was some authentic people out there who, they didn't even need to go stand next to the skyscraper. They didn't even need to get the invite to the mansion because they knew real skyscrapers. They knew real mansions. They've been to real mansions. They've been to real skyscrapers. They might not have been as big, or they might not even have been as opulent, but they know real ones. And they also know the basic rules, aka they know the foundation. They know what it looks like when a building has a strong foundation. If we continue with this analogy, any rapper who is building their rap career, if they're authentically hip-hop, if they're authentically part of this culture, they have a strong foundation. Their hip-hop building, their rap building Even if it's a little small one-room studio apartment, if it's a little one-floor cottage, they don't need a mansion. They don't need a skyscraper. They just need their space. So any real hip hop artist that's building their hip hop building, right? They're building their space in this culture of hip hop. They know how to build a strong foundation, and they know what a strong foundation looks like. They also know what it looks like when a strong foundation doesn't exist. So you had people like Kendrick Lamar, who for a while was probably sitting back looking like, I just don't like that dude, man. It's just something about that dude. I just don't like him. I just don't like him. You had people like T.I.'s friend literally pissing on him. When I heard that right there let me know, oh, he is a sucker. He talk all that stuff that he was talking, but he is a sucker. That was confirming for me that he ain't got no foundation. Because for that story to happen, and then for the story to get out the way it got out, as if everybody knows about it and everybody knows that it just happened and there was no retaliation, no consequence, no repercussion whatsoever, even if it was an accident, even if your man was drunk. Hey, guess what? You get a drunk KO today, baby. Sometimes if you did something by accident because you were drunk, that requires a KO. I'm sorry. You may not know what you did because you were drunk, but guess what? That's no excuse for you not to get these hands. It's no excuse for you not to get these hands if you disrespected me. Because you know what? I know I was disrespected. I'm aware of being disrespected. Everybody else around me is aware of being disrespected. You're the only one who isn't aware of the disrespect that you did to me because you're drunk. Not because you're sick or having a health issue. You're drunk. You chose to get yourself intoxicated to the point where you would take these actions and not remember or be aware. So because that's the situation, that means that I should not carry out my principle of keeping my self-respect and let you get away with that? You must be out of your mind. You get these hands, you get these feet, you get this work. It's time to squabble up. And it wouldn't even be no squabble up in that instance. If you're drunk, it'll be, you know what I'm saying? And you're going down. And if other people want to get in because they feel like they got to defend their drunk man, you got your squad, I got my squad, now we squabble up. And then at the end of the day, that's the story. Hey, yo, they was squabbling. The story ain't gonna be Drake got pissed on. The story gonna be they was squabbling. Why was they squabbling? Because one of these drunk niggas pissed on Drake by accident. He say he ain't taking that. Oh yeah, I wouldn't take it either. But that wasn't the story. The story was Drake. You know Drake got pissed on. When I heard it, I was like, and then what? I was like, and then what? Nothing. He just got pissed on. Then you hear a story about him getting slapped up. You got slapped in the face by the diddler. By the diddler. You got slapped in the face by the diddler. Like, nobody is scared of Diddy. I see you celebrities, we learning now why they were scared of him. But I don't think he had, I wouldn't have imagined he would have had no tapes on Drake at that time. Drake was just now, reaching the stratosphere. And he's a Canadian, so he ain't partying like that. Diddy is a dancing nigga. That's what we know him as. And I'm from New York. We had mad love for Diddy back in the 90s. He was putting a lot of New York artists on. And he was making them dance. You go to the club, you're going to hear Diddy in the club. But that's who he was. He was the dude that's going to make you dance. Ain't nobody thinking Diddy walk around slapping nobody and getting away with it. Getting away with it. But Drake. So then you get slapped by, that's like two of the most disrespectful things right there. You get peed on and you get slapped. So this is evidence of, and I'm kind of skipping ahead because I'm going to go back and explain to you and give you the proof of where his foundation should have and could have came from and where it's non-existent. But these are just manifestations of his lack of a foundation. These events that he allowed to happen are manifestations of his lack of a foundation in hip-hop. Because if he had any foundation in hip-hop, he would understand that these things can't slide. And if you feel like you don't want to be doing certain things a certain way, then you shouldn't be putting yourself in certain situations where these things could even happen. You should just stay home. There's a lot of big name rappers that don't be coming out, from what we know. Kendrick Lamar is one of them, apparently. Yeah, they complain about how he takes years to drop albums and this and that. So what? Go live your life and do something else. You gonna complain because another person didn't drop music? I'm a Nas fan. Nas went into hibernation for mad years at times. And I know I say hibernation, but he was dealing with family issues or whatever the case is. These are human beings. These are human beings. Jay-Z had made a choice to drop an album every single year at one point. But he made that choice because he was trying to keep his spot in the game. At that time, he was trying to keep his spot in the game. So you can't try to say somebody has to constantly drop music, whatever the case may be. But anyway, so those things happen with Drake. So I'm seeing, and this is before I even really analyze the whole situation. But now when I go back and analyze it and I see certain things, I'm like, man, the writing was on the wall from the beginning. Drake's foundation in hip hop is non-existent. He wasn't listening to hip hop as a child, right? Okay, so let's talk about that. What does it mean to have a foundation in hip hop, right? And everybody's foundation in hip hop is not going to be the same. To have a foundation in hip hop, it doesn't mean that you have to be born, in certain neighborhoods and you have to have lived a certain lifestyle or whatever. That you don't need that to have a certain foundation in hip hop. I can tell you that a foundation in hip hop does involve the grit and the grime, right? The foundation of hip hop will always consist of that. It will consist of the rugged, right? It will consist of the rugged. It will consist of the rejected, right? It will consist of the outcast, right? It will consist of the struggle. One of the first commercial rap songs, don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Ha 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 ha. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. This is the foundation that you're hearing. So you have to have some kind of connection with that. You got to be able to relate to that on some level. You got to be able to touch that in your heart and in your soul on some level. That doesn't mean you have to have grown up poor. Because you have rich kids who listen to hip hop and relate to it and could even say, there's rich kids that I would even say, or they can say they have a foundation in hip hop. Because they might have been a certain song that they heard and they was going through a struggle, or they was having a certain kind of stress, or somebody was bugging them to a point, or they just didn't understand what their purpose was or where they were supposed to go. And they heard this rap song that wasn't written for anybody like them, but that rap song really spoke to them. And they connected to it and they understood it. And that rap song helped to mold them and develop them and change them and motivate them and create them into a certain person. And if that was the case, that rap song becomes part of their foundation. And so in essence, hip hop now becomes part of their foundation. I'm not saying it's all of it. Of course, it wouldn't be all of it. It could just be a small part of the foundation. But it's a part of their foundation nonetheless, because it becomes a part of who they are, a part of their makeup. In many ways, Drake is comparable to Jay-Z, particularly in the earlier part of his career. I don't think I would compare them now. I think it's very disrespectful to compare Drake to Jay-Z now that we've seen the true Drake and we've seen, his reactions and responses in adversity, in hip hop specifically. We can't compare Jay-Z and Drake, in all fairness and honesty. Initially, they were compared because Jay, when he was, in the game, he was at the top of the game. During his run, he was in the stratosphere compared to everybody else. He was setting trends. He was a stimulus package. He was the biggest money guy, and he was braggadocious. Also, he gonna let you know I think I'm the best, and I'm gonna tell you that I think I'm the best too. There was a lot of similarities there. Vice versa, Kendrick Lamar would be more likely compared to Nas. As far as yeah, I'm the best, but our state of mind is different. What's important to you is not the same as what's important to me. You like to brag about money and status and females, and I'm the biggest in the game. Yeah, that's fine, but I know that none of y'all got more talent than me. And also, I'm a real person who lives life, so I'm gonna rap about life. Also, I'm gonna rap about my wife. I'm gonna rap about my aunt, my father, my mother, my cousins. I'm gonna rap about the problems that I see with certain things going on in the neighborhood, and I'm gonna rap about the stresses and the drama and the contradictions and all those things that happen in the mind of a man trying to live a righteous and just life, but who also experiences and is surrounded by many things that would be considered unrighteous. I'm not just going to embrace it. I'm not just going to embrace the unrighteous and the glamour, but I'm going to talk about real things. So in that sense, Kendrick Lamar is much more like Nas, and I think them two can still be compared. But Drake was much more like Jay, but we can't continue to compare them because it's disrespectful to Jay. And the way I was exposed to the two of them, I think gives a perfect example as well of just how, even from the word go, I can tell this guy has something real that interests me and that I want to hear more. But when I heard this other guy, it was like, what? So me first hearing Jay, I heard a kid in class. I'm in eighth grade, and I'm working on a longer video where I do a deeper dive into Jay, and I'll talk about this a little more. But basically, it's a kid in the class, and he keeps saying this line: "If I shoot you, I'm brainless. If you shoot me, you famous. What's a nigga to do? If I shoot you, I'm brainless. If you shoot me, you famous. What's a nigga to do?" and it caught my ear. It caught my attention. And that line right there, if I shoot you, I'm brainless. If you shoot me, you famous. What's a nigga to do? That line contains so much in there. That line could be the premise of a doctoral dissertation. No exaggeration. That line right there could be the premise of a doctoral dissertation, where somebody who's working on a doctoral degree could take that line and break it down and ask so many questions and try to answer some of them. All these questions that were running through my mind when I heard that. Aside from who is this? But it's like, who are these two people? Who are these two people that you are juxtaposing in this scenario? You're one of them. Who's the other person? You're talking about them committing equal levels of violence toward each other. We're human beings. We're intrigued by violence, so that's going to catch our attention. You're talking about them committing equal levels of violence to each other, but the result is drastically different for both of these individuals. Why? Why is that the case? And then why would you be considered brainless if you shot him? And then why would he turn around and be considered famous if he turned around and did the same thing to you? WTF was going on in my 8th grade 14-year-old mind when I heard that Jay-Z line? What is this guy saying? What is the speaker saying? Why is this the case for the speaker? I feel sympathy for you, speaker, because I could tell you would be in a worse situation if you did something equivalent to what someone else did. It would turn out worse for you. Why is this the case, speaker? And then he ends it off with, what's a nigga to do? Now you posing it. Now you asking me? Now you want me to help you? I already had sympathy for you when you said, if I shoot you, I'm brainless, but if you shoot me, you famous. That already gave me sympathy and empathy for you. But now you said, what's a nigga to do? Oh shit, you put the question on me. I'm still trying to figure out what you mean by the statement. I didn't even get to what are you supposed to do? This is a profound question. I can't even understand why this is the state of things. How am I supposed to get to the solution? But it intrigued me. It made me want to answer those questions. It made me want to see if I can get to a solution. It made me want to say, who is this guy? Why does he think like that? Why is the situation like that for him? And then he rapped brainless and famous. Like, people weren't really rapping like that then, unless maybe you were Rakim. And then Nas. So it was just so much from that one little line of Jay before I even heard the name Jay-Z. This is 97, right before Volume 1 dropped, which is his second album. And I knew nothing about him at this time yet. That because the Reasonable Doubt was more, that blew up later. So I hear this line, and just by me hearing this kid say this line 5, 6 times in the class, I had that line memorized. So now when I'm leaving that class, that line is running in my head. Next day, that line is running in my head. To the point where I'm saying this line in my head like I know the song, but mind you, I've never heard the song where it comes from. I just heard this one kid in class say this one line, and I'm hooked. Now maybe 2, 3 months later, the same year, I come home from school, my big brother is there, and he has a tape. He said, you ever heard this guy? I said, nah. He said, yeah, man, he's real good. We could listen to some of it together. The album's called In My Lifetime Volume 1. His name is Jay-Z. We put it on. And I believe it was either the first or second song, because I think it was the intro, A Million and One Questions song, where he said it. I think it was the first song. We listened, and then I hear, if I shoot you, I'm brainless. If you shoot me, you famous. What's a nigga to do when the streets is watching, Glocks keep cocking, waiting for you to break, make your first mistake. I'm like, oh, that's the line. That's the line. That's the rapper. This is the song. Oh, shoot. I put it all together. Boom. I'm a Jay-Z fan. I'm a Jay-Z fan right there. I'm a Jay-Z fan. I'm liking the song already. Then I hear the line that I was already intrigued by for all of these months. I like this guy. I like his music. Now, listening to that album, it also gave me a dichotomy in my fanship of Jay, because it was like, man, I like this guy. He's skilled. He got talents, but he says some shit, or he says he's done some shit that I'm like, dog, how could you say that? Or how could you do that? Like when does the song You Must Love Me, and he says he shot his brother. He shot his bigger brother because he had some of his jewelry. Whoa. I'm listening to this on the album that was given to me by my bigger brother. This is what I do with my bigger brother at the time. Things like that. We listen to music together. We chop it up. You just told me you shot your bigger brother over some chains or rings or whatever. Some jewelry. Dog. Whoa. So from day one with Jay-Z, I respected his talent, but I could tell, like, if he was an associate, he's the one you would have to keep at arm's length. Because you know that there's certain things about his spirit, about his persona, about his personality that you just can't agree with it. Jamaicans say my spirit can't take him. My spirit can't take. That's a saying Jamaicans have. My spirit can't take him. It wasn't necessarily like that with Jay-Z, because I respected his talent. I related to some of his rhymes. I understood some of his mentality. But my spirit was definitely like, we couldn't be kindred spirits. Right? We couldn't lock in like that. It would have to be at an arm's length. When I first heard Nas, and I've been sitting here thinking about when I first heard Nas. I can't remember when I first heard Nas. He's my favorite rapper, been my favorite rapper for a long time, but I can't remember when I first heard him, which bugs me. But anyway, when I really started to listen and understand Nas, my spirit said, we kindred spirits. You talk about life and reality. You talk about the ancestors. You talk about black power and history. You know what I mean? You talk about those things that when I learned them, I internalized them as important. You talk about the struggle. You talk about pride. Yeah, you talk about that gangster shit. You talk about hood stuff, street stuff, but you're not limited to that. So my spirit could relate to Nas. This is the 90s. Now, fast forward to 2001, 2002. This is my introduction to Drake. I'm in New York. I keep hearing, songs on the radio, mainly Hot 97. I believe Power 105 was coming around at this point. This is probably 2001, 2002. Whenever you first really started hearing Drake on like 3, 4 different songs a day on the radio, right? Two, even maybe 2 songs, 2, 3 songs, whatever. But I keep hearing these songs on the radio, and they're rap songs. And then out of nowhere, this dude starts singing on them. And once he starts singing, he fucks up the whole song for me. Because I don't go listen to a rap song to hear someone stop rapping and start singing. Especially if you can't sing. Drake doesn't sing, he croons. There's no range, no highs and no lows. There's no singing talent there. He fucking hums. He hums words is what he does. Okay, so every time I'm listening to these rap songs, I'm vibing, I'm trying to catch the song, I'm trying to listen, and then here comes somebody singing, and it's the same voice that I heard on the other song last week or yesterday that fucked up my vibe when I was listening to the song, because this dumbass want to keep jumping on these songs, singing like it's a fucking rap and R&B song, and then you can't even sing good. I like Jaheim, I like Maxwell, I like Anthony Hamilton. Those are the male singers I was listening to at the time. Don't tell me that this dude is singing. So anyway, I'm in Queens, I'm chilling with my boy Deuce. Shout out to Deuce. Me and Deuce were the music heads at this time. We following the Jay-Z and Nas battle. Every song, we following, we on it. Nas was my favorite, Jay was his favorite. So we arguing, we disputing. You feel me? This is what we on. We're following, I believe it was the Rockefeller D-Block going at it at that time. State Property D-Block going at it at that time. I was living in Queens, but I would come out to Long Island on the weekends, because that's where I grew up. All my friends was out there. So the mixtapes were dropping just about every weekend regarding when it was the D-Block Rockefeller beef. They would drop a mixtape just about every weekend. D-Block. Friday, it would drop. So Friday, I'm going to Jamaica Ave to cop me the mixtape. And it wasn't even right on the Ave. It was on 165th Street, the Coliseum block. I believe that's 165th Street. If you know, you know. 165th and Jamaica Ave. Right there at the top of the block, they had a little mixtape spot. I would go there sometimes 8, 9 in the morning, Friday, 10 o'clock, because I want to get it. And then I jump on the Long Island Railroad to go out to Long Island so I can have that Friday chill with my people, you know what I mean? So almost every weekend, I'm bringing out the fresh battle mixtapes from the mixtape CD store from Queens to Long Island. Me and Deuce, we listening. And that would be, what we would do during the day, stuff like that. But we listening. We analyzing the rhymes. We appreciating good stuff. We saying, nah, that's whack if it was whack. That's the cloth that I'm coming from. That's the cloth that I'm coming from as we're going into the Drake era. The mixtape. I'm coming from the mixtape era, the battle era. You feel me? The Cassidy and Beanie, Cassidy versus Freeway battles. We talking about that. You know what I mean? When 50 killing Ja Rule, we talking about that. When D-Block is going crazy on Rockefeller. D-Block was going crazy on Rockefeller. Y'all haven't heard half of the diss songs. They had mixtapes of diss songs. D-Block was going crazy. They had group songs, and then they had solo songs, especially Jadakiss and Sheik. Jadakiss and Styles. Sheik had a couple solos, and then they was letting J Hood loose on them too. D-Block was going crazy. So this is the cloth that I'm coming from. Now I still listen to Black Thought. I still listen to Black Star, Talib Kweli and Mos Def. I love actually their first album. I'm listening to them. I listen to Common. I don't know if Lupe came out yet, but when Lupe first came out, I was on it. Especially his first album, I used to bump that joint crazy. So I'm not only listening to the street rap, right? I like artistic music. I like talent, right? I like literary skill. So that's what's catching my attention, right? That's what's catching my attention. I'm listening. I'm coming from Pac. Brenda's Got a Baby, right? Right? When Pac said, they say pistols is paper, poetry, power. What he say? They say pussy is paper, poetry, power, and pistols. Plotting on murder with motherfuckers before they get you. Picturing pitiful punk niggas copping please. As I position myself to clock G's, I'm like, yo, that alliteration right there is crazy. That alliteration is crazy by Pop. I'm rewinding that joint like, yo, nobody ever said this to me, pointed this out to me. This is crazy. So this is what I'm coming from. I'm just letting y'all know my foundation in hip hop. You understand me? Lost Boys was my favorite rap group. Coming from Queens and me being born in Queens, favorite rap group. Eventually, I moved over to Bone Thugs and Harmony, and I'm from New York, and I'm listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony. So I had a lot of New Yorkers looking at me like, "You listen to that?" I'm like, "Yo, you don't hear them? You don't hear these guys, yo?" From Thuggish Ruggish Bone, I was a fan of Bone Thugs and Harmony. Every album I was going to get. The first tape that I popped was East 1999 Eternal. That's the first cassette tape I popped. If you know, you know. You only pop it because you played it so much that you wore out the tape. You literally stretched it and it popped. I popped East 99 Eternal tape. I went and bought another tape. Guess what? I played that one so much it popped. By the time the second East 99 Eternal tape popped, thankfully CDs were out now. So now I went and got the CD with my CD player. This is what I'm on. This is my hip hop foundation, right? I listen to all kinds of music too. Soul, R&B, definitely reggae. But when I'm talking about hip hop, that's my foundation. Some of y'all relate. Some of y'all understand. Some of y'all know what it is. When I was in a party, like the first high school party that I went to, and everybody leaving the party. I swear I've never seen anything like this to this day. To this day, I've never seen anything like this. I must have been anywhere between 14 to 16. I was no older than 16. It's a party at a hall, right, in the town. Party maybe 12:30 or whatever. It's high school party, so it's not open too late. It might be 10:30, 11:30, I don't know. But anyway, party shutting down. Everybody's clearing the hall, right? I was staying in the hall only because this is one of my first parties. I'm like, I want to leave at the last minute. I want to enjoy as much of this as I can. So I'm in the hall watching everybody clear out. The hall is now almost empty, right? It's almost empty. For some reason, the DJ puts on a Jadakiss song. I don't remember the exact title of the song, right? Because it came out on a mixtape. I believe it was on a Funkmaster Flex mixtape. It might have been on the first, but he dropped the mixtape as like an official album, and it might have been on that. But this is how the hook goes. The hook goes, I don't care who you with or who you get or what you got, all of that'll get you shot. Everybody in the world know Kiss is hot. Everybody in the world know Kiss is hot. And I'm telling you, the DJ put that song on, and when I say the hall filled all the way back up to more than what it was before, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because that brought all the hood dudes into the building. So during the party, you had a lot of the hood dudes in the hall, right? A lot of the hood dudes who went to school, but a lot of them were still outside the hall, parking lot pimping or whatever, right? Hanging outside in the parking lot, doing what they do. A lot of them probably didn't even go to the school. They just had friends or whatever that went to the school, so they're hanging out there. And then there's females out there too. And then even some of the females, when they left the party, you know how it is. Females want to go hang with the dudes who look like they're getting the money or popping or whatever, whatever. So a lot of the females, when the party was clearing out, went with those dudes. So now, when the DJ puts on the Jadakiss, I don't care who you with or who you get or what you got, all of that'll get you shot. Everybody in the world know Kiss is hot. Everybody in the world know Kiss is hot. When I say that brought all the hood dudes back in there, yo, that moment was a revelation to me. That moment was a revelation to me because I saw now the strength that specifically Jadakiss, but the Locks had with the hood. Because I seen all the hood dudes first get hyped as soon as the song came on. Because I think the beat is unique. It's something like that. That's how the beat starts. So as soon as we hear that, you see some people go, oh shit. People moving. Some people start coming back in the building. But then once the hook hits and they sing along with it, because now they coming to the music. So they coming in the building. The speakers are in the building. So they coming back in the building. And as they coming in the building, all the other party goers is coming with them. The females is coming, and once all the other dudes see that all the females going back in the party, they coming back in the party. So that one song literally restarted the whole fucking party. I've never seen no shit like that in my life before or since. To where every hood dude, not only the fact that it restarted the party, but every hood dude was like celebrating damn near that that song came on. And that's when I realized, oh shit, these niggas really speak to the streets. D-Block, the Locks, Jadakiss. Because I don't think they was calling themselves D-Block yet. It was just the Locks. D-Block was when they signed J Hood. All right, so bear with me, people. I appreciate y'all, following along. I'm hoping that the conversation is entertaining. I hope you can relate. Like and subscribe if you can. It don't cost you nothing, but just, walk with me. Because I may digress a little bit when I talk, but it's all related. Again, this is my cloth. This is my foundation. This is what I know as hip-hop. This is what I see as hip-hop. This is what I understand as the power of hip-hop. is to move people. It's to give you a word that gets you thinking, that gets your brain thinking, that is something that you can relate to, that motivates you, that makes you look in the mirror and say, you know what? I gotta do better. I gotta do more. I gotta do right. Or that just informs you on a certain situation, and you could be like, hey, you know what? I might need to stay out of this situation. I need to do nothing in this situation. As a matter of fact, I need to get as far away from it as possible. This is my foundation. All right, man. So back to it. So Drake's foundation as a human being, right? Scratch that. Before I even get into that, because I was telling you how I was introduced to Drake. Shout out to Deuce again. So now I'm in the back. I'm in the back of a car. You know, the radio was on. I think it was one of our female friends driving, and here comes a song with this dude. I hear it's a rap song, and then here's this dude singing on it again. So me and Deuce now, as I gave you out the history on our music, I'm immediately turning to Deuce. Hey yo, Deuce. Now this is how the conversation went, something like this. And when I look back on it, Deuce responded to me the way he responded to me because he knows Drake has no foundation in hip hop. At least at the time he knew Drake didn't have the typical foundation in hip hop that me and him were accustomed to. So when I asked him these questions and he explained it to me the way he explained it to me, he did it for shock value. And even though we probably couldn't articulate at the time that, yo, this dude doesn't have a foundation in hip hop, looking back, it's clear that was the case. So the conversation was something like this. So I turned to Deuce and I'm like, yo, Deuce, who is this dude that I keep on hearing singing on these rap songs? And he has like a little smile on his face and he's like, oh, that's Drake. You know, he's smirking kind of. He's like, oh, that's Drake. And I'm like, Drake? Who's that? He's like, oh, you never heard of Drake? I'm like, nah, I never heard of no Drake. He's like, yeah, Canadian dude. I said, he's Canadian? He's like, yeah, from Nickelodeon. I said, what you mean from Nickelodeon? He said, he used to be on Nickelodeon. Degrassi, he had a TV show. You don't know Degrassi? I'm like, Degrassi? He had a, what? What? This rapper is from Canada and had a TV show on Nickelodeon? He like, yeah, he started laughing. He like, yeah. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't like him. He's like, why not? So I tell him, like, he sings too much. He's always singing on these rap songs. He's like, yeah, I feel you. Yeah, right? So he's like, yeah, I feel you. And so, I'm telling him, I'm like, and then the one thing he says to me that gave Drake a little saving grace in my mind at that time, he was like, yeah, Jay, but the ladies love him. He's like, the ladies love him. You know what I'm saying? He's like, if you're around some females and you put on some Drake, they gonna like it. So when he said that, I was like, okay. That still didn't make me like him. That definitely, I still did not like the boy. But it made me put him in my back pocket. You feel me? I put him in my back pocket and I sat on him to say if I ever need to pull you out in a certain situation and I need to put on, certain tunes that I know is going to set the vibe, I could go for this boy Drake. That's where I put Drake. And that's how that conversation went. He letting me know this boy does not have the foundation that we're used to, in so many words. And so that was my intro to Drake. Hearing this person on these songs that was annoying the mess out of me, and then hearing about how his background is so not like us. And, in so many words. His background is so not like what we've been accustomed to, what we're used to in rap. Right? Now, does that mean that Drake cannot rap and he should not be a rapper? Absolutely not. Because, again, we've already talked about other rappers who don't have the prototypical, rap background or foundation. Nobody says you have to have a certain background or a certain foundation to be a rapper, a good rapper, an authentic rapper. But what we do expect you to be is real. What we do expect you to be is authentic. See, Drake's background, his foundation as a person, we've seen. His foundation as a person, and of course we haven't seen all of it. We don't know all of his life. But again, you know someone by their words and their actions, and I think we've seen enough actions and heard enough words from Drake to have an idea of who he is and where he's from. When we see Drake as a little kid dancing at his bar mitzvah party, if that's what that was, we're seeing Drake's foundation. When we see Drake in his documentary and he lives with his grandmother and mother who happened to be white and raised him, that's his foundation, which is great. There's nothing about race in regards to that, because whoever raised you and loved you, that's your parents, and you love them for for raising you and as your parents, your grandmother, whatever their relationship is. There's no fault there's no fault he gets for that. Even in hip hop, there's no fault he gets for that. It's not about race. So let's make that clear. He should love his family the same no matter what. But he should also understand that that is his background and embrace that. That is his foundation. Drake's foundation is when we see him sitting with his friends at a table and he's telling them about the slang that, they use around at school or whatever. When they say, instead of saying the group, they say men's in them. I believe that's what he said. Men's like them, something like that, the Canadian slang. And then even one of the white people he was with said, "Oh, that's pretty interesting," or something like that. And he goes, "No, it's not. It's ignorant." The slang that they use is ignorant. The same slang I'll be using a couple years later as a rapper with mob ties. It's ignorant. That's Drake's foundation when he's sitting there talking to those friends at the table. He was very comfortable in that setting. Very, very comfortable calling the slang of those he later would want to be around ignorant. He was comfortable. Drake's foundation is when we see him complaining to his mother about the sandwich that she brought him. When he wanted one kind and she ended up bringing another, and he's complaining to her about it. We see Drake's foundation as a person there. He's a spoiled mama's boy. And I have no respect for any mama's boy who's spoiled. I have no respect for any boy who, once you reach the age of, adolescence, teenager, and you're in a single mother home or a home with mainly or only females raising you, and you've reached the age where you're stronger than them physically, and so you decide that this is the time now where I'm going to impose my will and my dominance in the household over these women. So you turn around and project your strength back into the household and into those or onto those people who raised you, as opposed to doing what a good young man would do and say, now that I'm strong, I'm going to turn this strength into protection for those women around me. I'm not going to project my strength inward and towards them. My strength will be now projected outward. That way I'm surrounding them with my strength to protect them from anyone else on the outside who would try to come in and harm this here. That's what a good young man would do, who cares about their children, who cares about their mother or whichever woman is raising them, and they're not a spoiled brat. The way we saw Drake behave in that little scene tells a lot about a person, okay? You know a person by their words and their actions. Whether you see it or not, that scene let us know that. Drake was a spoiled mama's boy. He probably got everything he wanted, cried for whatever he didn't get, and if he cried loud enough, mama's going to give it to him if she can. That's who Drake is. That's Drake's foundation. That translates into the lawsuit that we see him filing after he lost the battle. That's the action of a spoiled mama's boy who lost, they didn't get what they wanted, and now they're crying and lashing out. That's Drake's foundation as a human being, as a person. So start there. Once you start there, every other things that he's done and the things that he's went through in hip-hop and what he's going through now all makes sense. It's not surprising. It's really not surprising. He went into this battle like a spoiled child, thinking, oh, I'm just going to get Kenny out of here. I'm just going to get him out of here. I'm the spoiled kid who gets whatever he wants. I always win. I'm going to get him out of here. It's going to be nothing. They all love me. Let me say a couple of cool things. Here, you write that for me. You write that for me. Let me record it, put it out there, and go party, because I'm Drake. But he met his match. He met somebody with a foundation. And they bucked up against each other, and somebody had to fall. And Drake fell quick. He fell quick. Drake had no foundation in hip-hop. He should have started developing it the moment he got into rap. He would have started developing it by being humble, by listening, taking advice, and not thinking he's the best. When Lil Wayne told him, don't try to be like me. Keep rapping about Canada and Degrassi and whatever else you be rapping about. Don't try to switch your style up and be like me. Lil Wayne literally told him that. That should have been the cornerstone of his foundation. That should have been the first brick laid in his foundation, because Wayne gave him the path to take as an artist. In so many words, he gave him, he told him his lane. He told him his lane and said, stay there, and you're going to go far. But Drake saw the whole highway, and he's like, nah, I want to go play in that lane. Mommy, I want to go drive over there. Mommy, can I drive over there? They look cool over there, Mommy. Can I go drive over there with them? He brought his personality, his personal foundation into hip-hop, where he has no foundation and didn't want to develop it. He came in, he saw that he was, reaching heights, and he decided to make that be his foundation, or at least attempt to be. You see, that's his big problem there. And we go back to the analogy of the skyscraper and the mansion. Drake began building his mansion and his skyscraper pretty quick. He started rising pretty quick once he got into the game. But he didn't take the time to build that foundation. He just started building up high. He just started adding floors. He just started trying to make himself look like the best, the biggest, the number one. He put on all of these, things on the outside of himself to make himself look like, I am the biggest structure in hip-hop. And he felt like that would be his foundation. He felt like his success would be his foundation. But that's completely backwards. You can't have the success without the foundation. The success is built on the foundation. So he should have built his foundation as a humble rapper. You're signed to Cash Money. You already have an advantage there of the people that you're around. Take the advice that you're given. Stay in your lane. Keep making your emotional music. I'm not going to listen to it. People like me are not going to listen to it. That's fine. You got lots of ladies that are going to listen to it. You got lots of dudes that are going to listen to it. You don't need to have everybody as your fan. You should have stayed in your lane. But then next thing you know, we're hearing about mob ties. How you get peed on and slapped by a diddler, but then you got mob ties? Like, come on. You jumped into this battle with Kenny, and you, being foundationless in hip hop, thought that you can just show your greatness and you would win. I'm Drizzy Drake #1. I'm the boy. Let me drop these songs. Let me talk personal to him. And then I win. But every time Kenny swung back and he hit you harder than you expected, that building, that skyscraper, that mansion started wobbling. It started shaking. It started crumbling. It started getting knocked down. And you didn't know what to do. Your entire structure. Because as that structure is crumbling, that is basically you as a person in hip-hop crumbling. Your entire hip-hop identity was built on your success. Your entire identity in hip-hop was built on your success. It wasn't built on any foundation. It wasn't built on a love of rap and of hip-hop. It wasn't built on how rap affected you and touched you. It wasn't built on that. You see, when Jay-Z lost to Nas, and that was a big loss that he took, I followed it all. I heard when Jay-Z, I heard it live. When Jay-Z went on the radio, right after New York City voted Nas Ether the winner, Jay-Z was at the radio in like 5 minutes. He was there. He was right there. That shocked me that he's going on the radio right after New York City said he lost. But I think he thought he was going to win. I think he thought they were going to vote him the winner, which is why he was there. But Jay-Z was right there. And then he went and he interviewed with Angie Martinez. He hadn't even apologized for Super Ugly yet. Because I think he apologized the very next day. So this is like the day before. This is maybe 1 or 2 days after Ether hit the streets. Or it might be like a week. Because Ether might have hit like on Monday or something. And then Hot 97 voted like that Friday. I think they voted right before the weekend. And I'm listening to Jay-Z on the radio. And I'm a Nas fan. And I'm hyped as shit. That Nas just smashed them. That New York City voted Ether the winner. Nas is back. Esco is back. Real rap is back. I had confidence in him from day one. But can't nobody say, even the hypest Nas fans can't say they weren't nervous. Because Jay-Z was a juggernaut in the game. Jay-Z, I don't really like comparing the two of them. But if you want to compare, where Drake was at the top of the game is where Jay-Z was. When he did Summer Jam, either that summer, that year, or the year before, that was the Summer Jam he brought out Michael Jackson. And nobody even saw Michael Jackson on any stage in years up to that point. So he brought out Michael Jackson. That was the summer he put Prodigy on the Summer Jam stage, like you said, on the Summer Jam screen. And shout out to Prodigy and Mobb Deep and QB. That was the summer he did that. That was also the summer that, because at the end of the song, he hit the line where he was like, ask Nas, he don't want it with Hov. No. So Jay-Z was just on top of the world. After that Summer Jam, they was like, yo, Jay-Z brought out Michael Jackson. What? Michael Jackson came out for Jay? What? Like, he was on top of the game. So now when he's shooting at Nas, and Nas came back with some joints, but Nas, we knew he didn't drop any bomb yet. Stillmatic was like an underground bomb. So we were nervous, right? So I wanted Nas to win. Then Nas won. I'm happy, I'm hyped. Then I hear Jay on the radio right after New York City votes, and Angie's talking to Jay. And I hear it in his voice. He's like deflated. You normally hear when Jay-Z gets on the radio, how he said, like, yeah, it's your boy. He got his team with him, you know what I'm saying? He's all the lots of laughing and all of that. It wasn't that. He was like, yeah, and boom, 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 and yeah, that's how things go. I did what I did, and boom, boom, boom. He was like that. It was low energy. You could tell like his mind was somewhere else. He was shaking. He was uncertain of himself. To the point where I felt slightly sorry for Jay. I felt slightly sorry for Jay when I was hearing him on the radio after that defeat. Because mind you, I was still a Jay-Z fan. I wanted Nas to win. I didn't like that Jay-Z came at him, but I've been a Jay-Z fan. So I didn't want to hear him defeated like that, especially after I've been so used to hearing him on the radio, being braggadocious. But now after that Nas battle, I can tell Jay-Z took a huge blow in confidence, mentally, emotionally probably. Yo, he might have went home and cried a little bit. I'm not laughing at him crying, but that's how it was. He might have went home and cried a little bit. He sounded defeated in that radio interview. And I say all of that to say, look at where he is now. He wasn't defeated. He could have been defeated. A weaker person would have been defeated. A person with no foundation would have been defeated. But you know why Jay-Z wasn't defeated? Because Jay-Z has a foundation in hip hop. Jay-Z has a foundation in hip hop. When Jay-Z first came in the game, he was running with Big Daddy Kane. All right, we talking about we get into the roots now. We get into the foundation. You talk about Big Daddy Kane. That's who Jay-Z was running with at first. He knows about the legends. He went to school with a lot of your current legends today. I think he went to school with Busta Rhymes and maybe some other Brooklyn cats. Of course, we know his relationship with Biggie. And then even when he got defeated by Nas, Jay-Z was able to go back to his foundation. He didn't have to try to keep on dropping mad songs and make it seem like he's still the greatest and this, and that. He was humble enough to even come and apologize the next day because he knows he's not bigger than hip-hop. No individual hip-hop artist is bigger than the culture. Drake, for a long time, has thought that he's bigger than the culture. So when Jay-Z took that defeat, you know what he was able to do? He was able to go back to his foundation, to his beginning, to what gave him his strength, to his basic principles and basic rules, and say, you know what, no matter what, at the end of the day, you're still Jay-Z. This is what you stand on. This is what you know. This is what you believe. This is what you know you can do based off of that, based off of this foundation that you've already built. You got to go back to the beginning. And going back to the foundation is not easy. Going back to the foundation is not fun. It's usually not fun, but it's necessary at times. At times, it's the only thing that'll save you. It's the only thing that'll keep you standing. Keep thinking about the analogy or the metaphor with a building or a skyscraper. Many times, your foundation is the only thing that's going to keep you standing. When you got to go back to your foundation, it's not going to be pretty and nice and fun and sunshine and roses. It's going to be gritty and dirty, just like the foundation of a building. The foundation of a building is simple. It might just be 4 walls and the floor, but it's strong cement or strong concrete, and it might have steel rebar in there, whatever you do, whatever they got to do to reinforce it. So the foundation is not pretty. It's not going to look like the glittering building that you see up top. It's not going to have all the opulent items of luxury on there. The foundation is going to be the basic. The foundation might include the struggle. It might include the dirt and the blood and the sweat and the grime that you had to put into it. Going back to your foundation is sometimes just sitting there, closing your eyes and thinking about the beginning and thinking about what built you at that point. And those thoughts are not always pretty. It's not always fun, but it's always a part of you. And it's part of what built you. And it's also at times what's going to save you. When things are the hardest, that's what you got to go back to. So Drake could never go back to that. Not in hip hop, because he never built one. So when Kenny came, you see, Drake is the first rap superstar with no hip hop foundation, which is why we see him do things that seem normal to him, but are unfamiliar to us. For example, his UMG lawsuit over losing this beef, refusing to disappear, at least temporarily, and just leave us alone for a little bit after his defeat. For example, other rappers who were defeated in battle have done it. Jay-Z had to do it for a little bit. Meek Mill did it. Even Freeway, briefly, when he lost against Cassidy, had to, step away for a little bit. Freeway had, he had it a little bit better because he was still a rookie in the game, so he still had that, new rapper buzz, so he was still able to come back, and eventually he came back with that, even though what we do is wrong, came back with that banger. It was over. Also, if you look at Drake's just strange ways of exiting a battle after defeat. For example, with Pusha T, when he lost against Pusha T, what did he do? He gave up. He then whined that Pusha T broke certain rules, these imaginary rules that, Drake says exist in battle rap. And then he kept on throwing shots from a distance. It's just weird. You look at how he lost with K-Dot, the way he behaves now. He gave up with a lame-ass final song, The Heart Part 6. That was a lame-ass song, I don't care what anybody says. He then whined that he was called a PDF file. And he whined about everybody else who's Kendrick's friend. And then he files a lawsuit. Just weird behavior, right? Now, here's an important point. Right, and I'm coming to my conclusion. I'm wrapping it up right now. But here's an important point for some anecdotal evidence that you could probably look for within your own circle, or environment, surroundings, however you want to look at it. But I pose to you, show me an individual who counts Drake as their favorite rapper, right? Not someone who says that they listen to Drake or they like his music or, he's cool, they're okay with him, whatever. Not even if they put him in their top anything. Show me a person who counts Drake as their favorite rapper, and I will show you a certified lame. OVO Ack and OVO Mall are the biggest and most public depictions of this, right? They're the most noticeable. They're the most out there. They're the ones that make the most noise. And those two are certified lames. I don't even know them, but you could just look at what they say, look at their actions, even their behaviors, and you can tell. You can just tell. They cap, they lie, they switch their story, they move the goalposts, all of these kind of things that they can do for their boy, right? So these people who claim Drake is their favorite rapper, right? These certified lames. These are people who were never part of the cool crowd, right? Which is nothing special anyway. It's nothing special to be part of the, and I'll say quote unquote cool crowd because it's just a made up thing. It's nothing special, right? But these are people who were never part of that cool crowd, and they either wanted to be a part of them or they envied them. Some people are not a part of the cool crowd, quote unquote, and they're okay with that, right? Not the Drake stands. Not the Drake stands. So the important point here is that Drake is also a certified lame, right? He just happened to make it to the cool crowd, quote unquote, once again, cool crowd, or at least he thought he did, right? Kendrick told him, you're not a rap artist, you're a scam artist with the hopes of being accepted. You're not one of us. You don't belong here. You're a scam artist. You're not one of us. You just have the hopes of being accepted. And Drake thought he was, which is kind of why when he realizes he wasn't, it hurt so much because he wanted to be there so bad and he thought he made it. And then when he realized it wasn't real, it crushed all his dreams. So all the Drake stands, right? They know that they are certified lames. They know this in their heart. And they also know that Drake is a certified lame. So Drake has in effect become the flag bearer of the CLs, the certified lames. Drake is Captain CL. Okay? He's become their hero, the captain. Their success is his success. He is their captain, oh captain. And for him, they be captain, oh captain. They go hard for him because they think he vindicates them. His success is their success. If he can make it, maybe they all aren't so lame after all, huh? But the truth must always come to light. And a structure without a foundation is guaranteed to crumble, aka spiral out of control, in the words of the great K. Dot. Now, a final point, just for contrast, since we're talking about foundations, a final point of contrast between the foundationless Drake and the sturdy K. Dot, right? So, Kendrick Lamar has increasingly in his music applied an elemental, ancient, black cultural aspect to his music. Many may not be aware of it. It's a simple cultural technique called call and response. It's all over Euphoria, Not Like Us, and the GNX album. It's simple, but effective. It's when the speaker says something that will have listeners respond in kind. It does two things. Number one, it grabs and reaffirms the attention of the listeners to the speaker. And number two, it reinforces a sense of unity among the group, among the speaker and the listeners. I strongly believe that Kendrick Lamar is consciously doing this because, as I mentioned, it seems like he's been doing it increasingly lately, particularly during this battle where he's mentioning culture, 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 right? So I believe he's consciously doing this. But when K. Dot uses call and response among his fans, particularly among his black fans, he's connecting to and reinforcing a much deeper cultural connection that began really with the first human beings to walk in Africa. There are what's called drum stones in Africa. I believe that's the term for it. It relates to drums and stones. So it could be like percussion rocks, something like that. But drum stones, I believe, is what they're called. In South Africa, particularly, I believe, is where they're located, which is where some of the first human beings walked on this earth. And they're basically stones. They're natural stones, big stones that are usually embedded into the land that, when tapped with other stones, with the correct stone, because you couldn't just use anything to tap it, you have to tap it with the correct stone, they give off the sound of a drum. So these are natural stones that, when tapped or banged properly with another stone, give off the sound of a drum. And different stones have different sounds, and there's different stones located in different areas, miles and miles apart, spread out. And anthropologists have found evidence that these stones were used by early man as a form of long-distance communication. A stone was drummed a certain way in one location, and another stone at a distant location would drum a corresponding response, aka call and response. Call and response is constantly used in hip hop, still to this day, particularly during live performances. I know a lot during the 90s, simple. When I say hey, you say ho, hey, ho, hey, ho. That's call and response. Call and response is used in the black church all the time. Can the church say amen? Amen. That's call and response. Call and response is used in many African cultures, in many of their, community songs and dances that they do. It involves call and response, where possibly the dancers or performers are calling out, and then the audience, the crowd, the listeners, whoever, they respond. So the entire community is involved. In children's, especially, African American children's games, patty cake games, where they slap their hands and they sing songs. Double Dutch, where girls play double Dutch. They have songs that they sing while they do these things that involve call and response. I don't know any of those songs off the top of my head, but I know for a fact that those songs, many of those songs, involve call and response. I can picture them now where one person says something and then the other person has to say something back. So this is something that is embedded within black culture from childhood. And many of us aren't even aware of this aspect of our culture. We just think this is, some of the songs we do. But we don't realize that this is a cultural aspect called call and response that dates back tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of years to the first human beings to step foot in Africa. Kendrick Lamar uses this cultural aspect to this day in his music. It ain't just me, I'm with the culture feeling. He can say that. He knows what he's doing when he does that and when he says that, because he's literally connecting to culture. So it's obvious. So, Kendrick's foundation, I mean, the story is that when he was born, his daddy was bumping Big Daddy Kane in the car on the way home, right? I believe it's a story. If I'm incorrect, you can correct me. So his culture started, from his birth in hip hop. He has the black consciousness in him already by his music, by his words, you can tell, and even by his actions. So that foundation that he has in hip hop and in black culture has given him the confidence and the steadiness and the ability to connect with the people who really matter to the culture in a way that Drake never would have been able to. And that steadiness is important. That steadiness. That steadiness is you standing on that foundation no matter what, not wavering. After this battle, and even during the battle, Drake has been completely unsteady and unstable, spiraling. Perfect example of someone without a foundation. He does not know where to stand. He's grasping for his success again because that's the foundation that he's created for himself. He felt like that could be his foundation, was his success. So he keeps trying to grab at his success to remind people, remember who I am, remember who I am. He kept making songs. He's going to sue, thinking people are going to be on his side. He's doing something great for the artist. He keeps grabbing at his success to try to hold himself up instead of standing on his foundation. But that's because it's not there. So when these two met in the arena of hip hop, the one without the foundation had to fall. It was destined by the hip hop gods. Those are the rules. Peace. Appreciate y'all staying with me for this long video. My future videos won't be as long. I felt like this was a topic that, could have just went in a whole lot of directions and still could be delved into even further. But I want to cover those things. Once again, I appreciate all y'all. Like and subscribe slowly but surely. Peace.